The quiet of a sleeping house can hold many secrets. Sometimes it holds the comforting hum of domesticity, the gentle rhythm of two lives intertwined. Other times it holds a suffocating silence, pregnant with unspoken truths, lies festering beneath the surface of shared sheets. For Simone, that silence shattered one ordinary Tuesday night at precisely 2:47 a.m., transforming her world into a landscape of shards and shadows. We all believe in the sanctity of our homes, don't we? That our bedrooms are sanctuaries of trust, our partners pillars of unwavering loyalty. But what happens when that illusion dissolves, not with a dramatic bang, but with the quiet, insidious glow of a phone screen in the dark? What happens when the person you've built your entire life with is revealed in a single moment to be a stranger cloaked in deceit? This is a story about that moment, about the devastating truth that emerged from the digital shadows, and about a woman who refused to let betrayal define her. It's a story not just of shattered trust, but of meticulously crafted justice and the unexpected path to a profound, real love. Imagine waking up thirsty, disoriented in the pre-dawn hours. You reach across the warmth of your husband's sleeping body for a glass of water, a routine gesture, an act so mundane it requires no thought. But tonight, your hand brushes against something else, the cold, insistent buzz of a phone. Your husband, Brandon's phone, lighting up the dark with a cascade of text messages. Your heart rate, normally a gentle drum against your ribs, begins to quicken, a subtle flutter of unease. You tell yourself it's probably work, a late-night client emergency. You try to rationalize, to ignore the creeping dread, but your eyes are drawn irrevocably to the screen. And then you see it, the name at the top, the message that feels less like words and more like a physical blow. And meeting tomorrow, 7:00 p.m., Romanos, can't wait to have you all to myself again. That single sentence, simple in its construction, detonated Simone's world. It wasn't just words. It was an atomic bomb of betrayal, exploding in the quiet intimacy of their bedroom. The raw, visceral shock of it is almost impossible to articulate. It's a feeling that sears itself into your memory, staining everything that came before and coloring everything that comes after. The you was not her. The tomorrow was not for her. The all to myself was a stark, brutal declaration of exclusive intimacy with someone else. In that agonizing instant, Simone faced a primal choice: put the phone down, pretend it never happened, and try to crawl back into the fragile cocoon of ignorance, or succumb to the agonizing pull of the unknown and scroll. We know which path she took, don't we? Because when the foundations of your reality begin to crumble, sometimes the only way to understand the devastation is to witness its full, horrifying scope. What Simone uncovered over the next few minutes, scrolling through months of illicit exchanges, wasn't just a casual fling. It was a meticulously documented love affair, an emotional landscape carefully cultivated behind her back. There were the declarations. Last night was incredible. The way you touched me. The dreams of a shared future. I dream about leaving our spouses and running away together. And then, the painful confirmation of a pattern. Thursday nights are the only thing getting me through this week. Thursday nights. A phrase that echoed in her mind, each syllable a hammer blow of realization. Every Thursday night for the past 6 months, Brandon had offered the same tired excuse: late meetings with clients, important business dinners, securing our future. And Simone, in her unwavering love and trust, had believed him. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of shared dreams, laughter, and support, and every Thursday night he had systematically dismantled it, piece by agonizing piece, under the guise of ambition. The emotional toll of this discovery is immense. It's not just the physical act of infidelity that wounds, it's the profound disrespect, the deliberate deception, the calculated lies that unravel the very fabric of shared history. It makes you question everything you thought was real, everything you thought you knew about your partner, and perhaps more terrifyingly, about yourself. But the most insidious dagger, twisted deep into Simone's heart, wasn't the graphic descriptions of their encounters. No, it was reading how Brandon talked about her. She has no idea. She's so trusting. It's almost pathetic. The casual cruelty, the dismissive contempt, the cold calculation. Simone thinks I'm working late again. Sometimes I wonder how someone so smart can be so stupid. And then, the ultimate betrayal of intimate comparison. My wife is beautiful, but Nicole, you make me feel alive in ways she never could. These weren't just the words of a man having an affair. These were the words of a man who held his wife in disdain, who actively mocked her trust and intelligence. This type of verbal abuse, delivered in secret, is a silent violence, far more damaging to the psyche than a shouted argument. It chipped away at Simone's self-worth, even without her knowing it at the time. It was a slow, agonizing poison. As Simone sat there, cradled in the darkness, her beautiful African-American features contorted in a pain she'd never known, she understood the full scope of the devastation. This wasn't a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment. This was a sustained, calculated campaign of deceit. A physical affair, yes, but also a deep emotional bond where Brandon and Nicole openly discuss their future together, their meant-to-be destiny, waiting for the right time to abandon their boring spouses. That phrase, boring spouses, must have resonated with a particular sting, stripping away any lingering self-doubt about her value. The irony of Brandon shifting in his sleep, oblivious to the earthquake he had just unleashed, must have been almost unbearable. Simone, with a surgeon's precision born of pure adrenaline, placed the phone back on the nightstand. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, the hours dissolving into a blur of anger, hurt, confusion. What do you do when the person next to you is simultaneously your everything and your ultimate betrayer? When the intimacy of your shared bed becomes a stage for his infidelity? It wasn't until the first tentative streaks of dawn painted the sky outside their bedroom window that another emotion began to crystallize within her. It wasn't despair, it wasn't surrender. It was a cold, unyielding resolve, determination, the kind that comes when you realize you have nothing left to lose and everything to reclaim. When Brandon finally stirred that morning, Simone was already in the kitchen, a domestic goddess, crafting his favorite breakfast: fluffy pancakes with fresh blueberries, crispy turkey bacon, coffee strong enough to wake the dead. A performance worthy of an Oscar, playing the role of the devoted, oblivious wife. "Good morning, beautiful," he crooned, planting a customary kiss on her cheek. The sheer audacity of it, the casual hypocrisy, after texting another woman about the taste of her lips, must have felt like a fresh wound. "Good morning, honey," Simone replied, her voice steady, an iron will hidden beneath a silken tone. "How did you sleep?" "Like a baby. You know how much those client dinners take out of me." His words, dripping with lies, solidified her resolve. As he sat at their kitchen island, the very spot where they'd planned their future, discussed children, built a life, Simone watched him consume the breakfast she'd made, his face a mask of comfortable deception. In that moment, a decision was forged, a pact with herself that would irrevocably alter both their lives. There would be no screaming, no crying, no begging for explanations. That would only empower him, giving him the stage to manipulate, to lie further, to offer empty promises. No, Simone would orchestrate something far more satisfying, far more permanent. "Don't forget you have that important meeting tonight," she said, refilling his coffee cup, "the one with the Patterson account." Brandon looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He wasn't used to her paying attention to the minutiae of his work. "Yeah, it's going to be a long one. Probably won't be home until late." "Of course, I'll keep dinner warm for you." The subtle validation of his lie, the feigned devotion, was a masterful stroke of misdirection. As he left for work, kissing her goodbye at the door like a loving husband should, Simone began to plan. She had the details memorized. Romano's Italian Bistro. Thursday nights, 7:00 p.m. Table for two, back corner. Intimate, unseen. But Brandon and Nicole were about to discover that Romano's, that clandestine haven of their infidelity, would become the stage for the most humiliating night of their lives. Simone wasn't just going to catch them in the act. She was going to ensure that the people who mattered most to both of them, the anchors of their public personas, were there to bear witness to their betrayal. This wasn't just about personal pain, it was about public accountability. This was about stripping away the veneer of respectability and exposing the rot beneath. For the first time in months, as she meticulously plotted her revenge, Simone felt truly alive. The heavy shroud of victimhood began to lift, replaced by a fierce, invigorating sense of purpose. The next Thursday arrived, swift and inexorable. Simone, ever the diligent wife, informed Brandon she was having dinner with her sister, Tanya, providing him with the perfect alibi for his client meeting. Instead, she drove downtown, parking across the street from Romano's, her hands steady despite the tremor in her heart. At 6:30 p.m., she adjusted her rear-view mirror, securing a clear, unobstructed view of the restaurant entrance. At exactly 7:03 p.m., she watched him. Brandon, in the navy blue suit she had bought him for his birthday, the same suit he'd worn to her company Christmas party just 2 months prior, where he'd held her hand and declared his luck to everyone present. He walked into Romano's, a man completely unaware he was walking into his own meticulously designed downfall. 5 minutes later, a red BMW pulled up. Out stepped Nicole Peterson. Simone had seen Nicole before at Brandon's office events, but she had never truly looked at her. Now she absorbed every detail. Shorter than Simone, maybe 5'4", straight brown hair, pale skin, pretty in a basic, unassuming way. Nothing, Simone thought with a bitter pang, worth destroying a marriage over. Nicole wore a tight black dress, leaving little to the imagination, and heels so high Simone wondered how she managed to walk. This was not business attire. This was the uniform of a woman dressed to seduce someone else's husband. The visual confirmation, the stark reality of their physical presence together, was a fresh wound, but it also fueled Simone's resolve. This was real, and it was about to be undeniable. Simone allowed a full 15 minutes to pass, letting them settle into their secret haven before making her own entrance. She had called ahead, requesting a table with a clear view of the back corner booths, claiming she needed to spot her date easily. The hostess, a young woman with a bright, unsuspecting smile, led Simone to a strategically perfect table, offering a complete vantage point while keeping Simone discreetly hidden behind a large, decorative plant. There they were, table 12, just as the text had promised. Brandon's back was to her, but Nicole's face was in full view. Leaning across the table, her hand covering his, laughing at something he'd said. The way she looked at him, Simone thought, a wave of nausea washing over her, was exactly how she used to look at Brandon when they first started dating. That unfiltered adoration, the nascent spark of a new connection. It was all there, playing out before her eyes. Simone ordered a glass of wine, maintaining the facade of a woman calmly awaiting a date, while observing the silent, agonizing betrayal unfolding before her. They ordered appetizers, feeding each other, a sickeningly intimate dance of fingers and whispered words. Brandon reached across the table, a familiar, tender gesture, and tucked a strand of Nicole's hair behind her ear. It was a gesture he used to do to Simone, a small, intimate act that now felt like a punch to the gut. It was a sign not just of physical intimacy, but of emotional connection, a shared history in the making. When their entrees arrived, they barely touched the food, too absorbed in each other, eyes locked, whispering secrets that made Nicole giggle and blush. Simone watched Brandon take Nicole's hand, bringing it to his lips, kissing her palm gently. 8 years of marriage, and he had never done anything so overtly romantic for Simone. But the most unbearable revelation was seeing how happy he looked. Simone hadn't seen Brandon smile like that in months, perhaps even years. With her, he was perpetually tired, stressed by work, burdened by bills. But here, with Nicole, he was animated, light, completely present, radiating a joy that had been absent from their home for too long. This wasn't merely a physical dalliance. He was deeply, dangerously in love with her. The depth of that realization hit Simone with a cold, hard force. Around 8:30 p.m., they rose to leave. Brandon, the perfect gentleman, helped Nicole with her coat, his hands lingering on her shoulders a fraction too long. They walked toward the exit together, Simone ducking behind her menu as they passed, her face a mask of composure. She followed them outside, maintaining a discreet distance. They stopped beside Nicole's red BMW, and Brandon pressed her against the car door, kissing her with an urgency that spoke of deep yearning. Her hands tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, their bodies a tableau of illicit passion. So lost in their private world, they were oblivious to Simone, a silent observer in the shadows. "I don't want this night to end," Nicole murmured when they finally broke apart. "Neither do I," Brandon replied, his voice thick with desire. "Same time next week?" "I'll be counting the days." Another kiss, a lingering touch. Then Nicole drove away. Brandon stood there, watching her taillights disappear into the city night, a lingering smile on his lips. Simone remained in her car for another 20 minutes, processing the scene. This was no fleeting mistake, no momentary lapse. This was a full-blown love affair, complete with routines, inside jokes, and a carefully constructed emotional intimacy that had been building for months. When she finally drove home, Brandon was already there, ensconced on their couch, pajamas on, watching ESPN, a picture of domestic contentment. "How was dinner with Tanya?" he asked, not bothering to look away from the TV. "Fine. How was your meeting?" "Boring, same old stuff. The Patterson account is being difficult, but we'll work it out." Simone stood there looking at the man she had shared a bed with for 8 years and felt nothing but profound contempt. The ease of his lies, the practiced naturalness, made her wonder how many other fabrications she had swallowed whole over the years. "I'm going to take a bath," she said. "Okay, I'll probably be asleep when you come to bed. Big day tomorrow." As she soaked in the lukewarm water of their shared tub, the urge to confront him, to scream, to throw things, to demand answers was powerful. But she resisted. She knew it would be futile. It would only give him the opportunity to lie more, to manipulate, to make empty promises. No, she would do something better. She would give Brandon and Nicole exactly what they deserved, and she would ensure that everyone who mattered to them was there to witness it. The next morning, Simone called in sick to work. She needed time. Time to think, time to plan, and crucially, time to research. Once Brandon had left for the office, she opened her laptop, a quiet warrior preparing for battle. Her target, Romano's Italian Bistro. Their website was typical for a high-end restaurant, elegant dish photos, a curated wine selection. But what truly mattered to Simone was their detailed reservation system. She clicked through every page, absorbing every detail of their layout, their policies, their busiest nights. Romano's, she discovered, specialized in romantic dining, private booths, dim lighting, an intimate atmosphere. No wonder Brandon and Nicole had chosen it. The back corner, table 12, was specifically designed for couples seeking privacy, advertised even as perfect for special occasions and intimate celebrations. The irony was a bitter pill, but also a potent fuel for her plan. Around lunchtime, Simone made her first crucial call, subtly disguising her voice. "Romano's Italian Bistro, this is Amanda speaking. How can I help you?" "Hi, I'm wondering about your reservation policy. If I wanted to book multiple tables for the same evening, how would that work?" "Of course. Are you planning a special event?" Amanda, the accommodating hostess, replied. "Sort of," Simone said, her voice a careful blend of mystery and cheerfulness. "I want to surprise some family members who don't know each other are coming. Is it possible to book separate tables without them knowing about each other until they arrive?" Amanda chuckled. "Oh, that sounds like fun. Yes, we can definitely do that. We can book the tables under different names and just let you coordinate the timing. When were you thinking?" "Next Thursday evening around 7 p.m. "Let me check our availability. Yes, we have several tables available that night. Would you like me to set something up?" "Not yet, but I'll call back soon. Thank you so much." Simone hung up, her heart racing. The intricate gears of her plan were beginning to mesh. But she needed more information. The rest of the day was spent deep diving into the lives of Brandon's parents and Nicole's parents. Social media, that ubiquitous window into carefully curated lives, made it frighteningly easy. She discovered Brandon's parents, Robert and Diana, lived about an hour away. Robert, newly retired bank manager, Diana, active in their church. Traditional, conservative people who held the sanctity of marriage as an unbreakable covenant. Brandon's affair would devastate them. Nicole's parents were even more intriguing. Her father, Dr. James Peterson, a respected cardiologist. Her mother, Patricia, a former teacher, now a dedicated charity volunteer. Pillars of their community, their reputation was paramount. Both sets of parents were prolific on social media, their feeds filled with family gatherings, proud declarations of their children's achievements. Nicole's mother had recently posted about her immense pride in Nicole's successful career and her stable marriage to her husband of 6 years. Wait, Nicole was married? The realization hit Simone with the force of a physical blow, even more shocking than the initial discovery of the affair. She had assumed Nicole was single. It added another layer of calculated cruelty to the betrayal. Simone scrolled frantically through Nicole's profiles until she found what she was looking for. Photos of Nicole with a tall, thin man named Timothy, wedding photos from 6 years prior, recent vacation pictures, anniversary posts celebrating their perfect marriage. This changed everything. Nicole wasn't just unraveling Simone's marriage, she was systematically destroying her own. Timothy, in the photos, looked like a genuinely kind man, quiet, steady. His gaze upon Nicole mirrored the adoring expression Simone used to see on Brandon's face when he looked at her. Simone closed her laptop, leaning back in her chair, the full, devastating scope of her plan now complete. Both sets of parents would be horrified, yes, but they would also be witnessing the destruction of 2 marriages, not just one. The public humiliation would be amplified, the shame exponentially greater. That evening, when Brandon came home, Simone was cooking his favorite dinner. "You seem happy today," he observed, loosening his tie. "Feeling better?" "Much better," Simone replied, her voice imbued with a quiet, dangerous contentment. "I had time to think today, and I realized how lucky I am. Lucky to have you, to have our marriage. Some people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone." Brandon shifted uncomfortably, a telltale sign of his guilt. That's sweet, baby. I feel the same way." Liar. But Simone simply smiled and kissed his cheek. "I was thinking we should do something special for our families. Maybe invite your parents and some other people out for dinner next week. Romano's Italian Bistro downtown is supposed to be amazing." The color visibly drained from Brandon's face. "Romano's? That place is pretty expensive." "We can afford it," Simone countered smoothly. "Unless you have something else going on next Thursday night?" "Thursday? No, I don't think so. But wouldn't you prefer somewhere more casual?" His desperate attempt to deflect was palpable. "I specifically want Romano's. I heard they have the most romantic atmosphere in the city, perfect for celebrating family." Brandon nodded slowly, but the panic in his eyes was unmistakable. He was undoubtedly already scrambling, trying to figure out how to cancel his date with Nicole or move it to a different night. Too bad for him. By the time Simone was done, he wouldn't have to worry about Thursday night dates with Nicole ever again. Friday morning, Simone began the execution phase. The first call was to her mother-in-law, Diana. "Simone, what a lovely surprise to hear from you." "Hi, Diana, I hope you and Robert are doing well. I'm calling because I want to do something special for you both." "Oh, that's so sweet, dear. What did you have in mind?" "I'd like to take you and Robert out for dinner next Thursday night. There's this beautiful Italian restaurant downtown called Romano's, and I thought it would be nice to treat you to a night out." Diana sounded touched. "That sounds wonderful, but shouldn't Brandon be the one inviting us?" "It's a surprise for Brandon, too. I want to surprise him with a family dinner. Can you keep it a secret until Thursday?" Diana's voice brightened with excitement. "Of course! Robert and I love surprises. What time should we be there?" 7:15 p.m. "I'll make the reservation under your name so Brandon doesn't find out ahead of time." "How thoughtful of you, dear. We'll be there." The second call was trickier. Simone had no relationship with Nicole's parents. This required creativity. She called Dr. Peterson's office. "Peterson Cardiology, this is Jennifer speaking." "Hi, Jennifer. This might sound strange, but I'm trying to reach Dr. Peterson about his daughter, Nicole. I work with her, and we're planning a surprise celebration for her at Romano's Italian Bistro, downtown, next Thursday at 7:15 p.m. I was hoping her parents could join us. Oh, how sweet. Let me check if Dr. Peterson is available to take your call. A few minutes later, a distinguished voice came on the line. This is Dr. Peterson. Dr. Peterson, my name is Sarah Johnson, and I work with Nicole at Henderson Marketing. The lie flowed effortlessly. We're organizing a surprise celebration for Nicole's recent promotion, and we'd love for you and Mrs. Peterson to join us next Thursday evening at Romano's Italian Bistro. A promotion? Nicole didn't mention anything about a promotion. Dr. Peterson sounded surprised. It's all very last minute, and we want to keep it a complete surprise. Could you and your wife meet us there at 7:15 p.m.? We'll take care of everything. Well, I suppose we could rearrange our evening. Patricia will be thrilled. She's always saying we don't celebrate Nicole's achievements enough. Perfect. I'll make sure there's a table reserved for you, and please don't mention this to Nicole. We want it to be a complete surprise. Of course, thank you for thinking of us. After hanging up, Simone leaned back and smiled. Two sets of unsuspecting parents, both expecting separate surprise celebrations, both arriving at the same restaurant where their children would be having their weekly affair. The stage was set, but Simone wasn't done yet. The final piece of the puzzle was to ensure Timothy, Nicole's husband, had a glimmer of understanding about his wife's Thursday night activities. Simone drafted an email from a burner account. You don't know me, but I think you should know that your wife has been having dinner with another man every Thursday night at Romano's Italian Bistro. Table 12 in the back corner, 7 p.m. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this. Her finger hovered over send, but then she stopped. If Timothy arrived, he would likely be angry, ready for a direct confrontation, which could escalate into violence, or at the very least, a chaotic scene that would overshadow her carefully planned revelation. No, she wanted the parents to discover the affair. Timothy could find out afterward, when Nicole had to explain to her utterly humiliated parents why she was destroying her marriage. She deleted the draft. Timothy would find out eventually, probably that same night when Nicole came home and had to field furious, devastated calls from her parents. Justice, in Simone's careful calculus, would be served in layers. Her phone rang. It was Brandon. Hey, baby, I just wanted to let you know I might have to work late again next Thursday. The Patterson account is heating up. Actually, that's perfect timing, Simone said, a subtle undercurrent of steel in her voice. I was going to surprise you, but I invited your parents to dinner next Thursday night at Romano's Italian Bistro. The silence on the other end stretched, thin and brittle. So long, Simone thought the call had dropped. Finally, Brandon spoke, his voice strained, almost a whisper. You did what? I made dinner reservations for us and your parents. 7:15 p.m. at Romano's. I know you love that place. Simone, That's really sweet, but I don't think Thursday is going to work. Can we move it to Friday? I already confirmed with your parents, and Romano's is booked solid on weekends. Besides, you can reschedule your work meeting, can't you? Family should come first. Another agonizing pause. Of course, family first. I'll figure something out. Great, it's going to be such a wonderful evening. As she hung up, Simone could almost hear the frantic gears turning in Brandon's mind. He had limited options, each one a trap of his own making. He could try to cancel his date with Nicole, but then he'd have to explain his visible disappointment to his parents. He could try to move the family dinner, but Simone had already shut that down. Or, the riskiest gamble of all, arrive early for his date with Nicole, hope his parents were late, and try to escape before they arrived. But that would mean sacrificing precious time with his mistress, and Simone knew, from her observations, Brandon was addicted to those Thursday night encounters. He was snared. Simone spent the weekend playing the part of the perfect, loving wife. She cooked his favorite meals, showered him with affection, listened attentively to his work woes. But beneath her serene exterior, she watched the stress build in him like a pressure cooker. He was distracted, constantly checking his phone, caught staring into space with a worried, hunted expression. On Monday night, his phone buzzed with a text. Simone watched his face go pale as he read it. "Everything okay?" she asked innocently. "Yeah, just work stuff. The Peterson account is getting complicated." But Simone knew. It was Nicole wondering about their Thursday night. How would Brandon explain this to her? Would he confess about the family dinner or spin another elaborate lie? Tuesday evening, Brandon's behavior became even more erratic. He'd start conversations, then trail off, seemingly on the verge of confession, but unable to articulate the truth. "Simone," he finally ventured as they prepared for bed, "about Thursday night." "Yes? I'm so excited. It's been too long since we've done something nice for your parents." "Right, it's just, what if the Peterson account really needs attention that night? What if I can't get away from work?" Simone turned to face him, concern carefully etched onto her features. "Brandon, is work really more important than family? Your parents are getting older. We should spend time with them while we can." He looked utterly defeated. "You're right, work can wait. Family is more important." As they lay in bed that night, Brandon tossed and turned for hours. Simone pretended to sleep, but her mind was wide awake, replaying the scene that would unfold in less than 48 hours. Brandon's affair would be exposed in the most humiliating way imaginable, and she couldn't wait. Thursday morning dawned gray and cloudy, a perfect mirror to Simone's calm, determined mood. She woke before her alarm, her stomach a flutter of excitement and nerves. Today was the day everything would change. Brandon was already awake, staring at the ceiling, the expression of a man facing execution etched on his face. "Good morning," Simone said cheerfully, kissing his cheek. "Are you excited about tonight?" "Excited isn't the word I'd use," he muttered. "What's wrong? It's just dinner with your parents. They're looking forward to seeing you." Brandon sat up, running his hands through his hair. "Simone, I need to tell you something." Simone's heart stopped. Was he finally going to confess? After all these months, would he finally tell her the truth? "What is it?" He looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "Never mind. It's nothing important." Coward. Even with the truth staring him in the face, he couldn't bring himself to be honest. Simone got out of bed, humming softly as she prepared for work. "Romano's for 7:15. We should probably get there a few minutes early to make sure everything is perfect for your parents." "Yeah, perfect." Brandon's voice was flat, defeated. At work, Simone couldn't concentrate. The hours crawled by. She had taken the afternoon off, telling her boss she had a family emergency. In a way, it was the truest thing she'd said all week. Around 3:00 p.m., she drove home, preparing herself for the evening. She chose her outfit meticulously, an elegant black dress that made her dark skin glow, the pearl earrings Brandon had given her for their anniversary, heels that made her feel powerful. She wanted to look stunning, composed, and utterly in control as her husband's world collapsed around him. She applied her makeup slowly, taking extra care with her eyes, ensuring she looked beautiful and untroubled, not like a woman whose life had been fractured. Tonight wasn't about being a victim. It was about being the architect of her own justice. Brandon arrived home around 5:00 p.m., looking like he hadn't slept in days. "You look beautiful," he said quietly, his gaze tinged with an unfamiliar desperation. "Thank you. You should start getting ready. We want to look nice for your parents." He nodded, heading upstairs. Simone heard the shower, then the muffled sounds of him moving around their bedroom. When he came back downstairs, he was wearing the very same navy suit he'd worn for his last illicit date with Nicole. The stark irony was a bitter taste in Simone's mouth. "Ready?" she asked, grabbing her purse. "As ready as I'll ever be," he mumbled. The drive to Romano's was cloaked in a heavy silence. Brandon kept checking his phone, a pathetic hope for some miracle that would extract him from the impending disaster. Simone watched him from the corner of her eye, memorizing every detail of his anxious face. After tonight, she would never look at him the same way again. They arrived at Romano's at precisely 7:10 p.m. The valet took their car, and they walked into the restaurant together. Brandon's hand, clammy with sweat, squeezed hers. "Table for Williams," Simone told the hostess, using Brandon's parents' last name. "Of course, right this way." The hostess led them to a table in the main dining area, strategically chosen by Simone for its perfect, unobstructed view of the back corner booths. Brandon's eyes immediately darted to table 12, the clandestine haven where he had spent months building a secret life with Nicole. It was currently empty, but not for long. "This is a nice table," Simone said, settling into her chair, a picture of calm anticipation. "We'll be able to see your parents when they arrive." Brandon nodded absently, his gaze still fixed on the back corner. "Where are they? They're usually punctual." "They'll be here soon. Would you like to order some wine while we wait?" Before Brandon could answer, Simone saw a familiar figure through the restaurant's front window. Dr. Peterson assisting his wife out of a silver Mercedes. Both were elegantly dressed, believing they were attending a celebration of their daughter's professional success. "Actually," Simone said, standing up, "I need to use the restroom. Order whatever wine you think is best." She walked toward the back of the restaurant, positioning herself where she could see both the front entrance and table 12. At exactly 7:13 p.m., Dr. and Mrs. Peterson walked through the front door. "Peterson, party of 2, Dr. Peterson informed the hostess. "Of course, we have a lovely table ready for you." The hostess led them to a table on the opposite side of the restaurant from where Brandon and Simone were sitting, but with a clear, perfect view of the back corner booths. 2 minutes later, Robert and Diana Williams entered, looking excited and slightly confused. "Williams, party of 2, Robert told the hostess. "Absolutely, right this way." They were seated at a third table, completing the strategic triangle. All 3 tables had perfect sightlines to table 12, where Brandon and Nicole had been conducting their affair for months. Simone returned to her table just as Brandon ended a phone call. "Who was that?" she asked innocently. "Just work. A client needed to reschedule something." Liar. It was Nicole, undoubtedly asking where he was, their usual Thursday night date set to begin in mere moments. "Your parents are here," Simone said, pointing across the restaurant. Brandon turned and waved at his parents, who waved back enthusiastically. He looked confused by their presence, but not yet alarmed. Not yet. "Simone," Robert called out, standing up. "This is such a wonderful surprise." Simone waved back, a bright, triumphant smile on her face. "I'm so glad you could make it." That's when Brandon's face changed. He was looking past his parents, and Simone followed his gaze to see Dr. and Mrs. Peterson sitting at their own table, studying their menus. "Why are the Petersons here?" Brandon whispered, his voice tight with pure, unadulterated panic. "The Petersons? I don't know any Petersons. Maybe they just chose the same restaurant as us. What a coincidence." But Brandon knew it wasn't a coincidence. Simone could see the frantic calculations in his eyes, the dawning, horrific realization that this evening was spiraling into a catastrophic end for him. At exactly 7:18 p.m., Nicole Peterson walked through the front door of Romano's Italian Bistro, wearing the same tight black dress she'd worn the week before. She was looking for Brandon, scanning the restaurant until her eyes landed on him, sitting innocently at Simone's table. The confusion on her face was priceless. This was not how their Thursday nights were supposed to go. Brandon's phone buzzed. He looked at it, then at Simone, then at Nicole, who still stood by the hostess station looking lost and disoriented. "I need to use the restroom," he blurted out, a desperate plea for escape. "Of course, I'll order appetizers for when your parents join us." Brandon practically ran toward the back of the restaurant, and Simone watched Nicole follow him a moment later, a worried frown on her face. They were undoubtedly meeting in the hallway by the restrooms, frantically trying to salvage their romantic evening, desperate to understand what had gone so terribly wrong. But what they didn't know was that the evening was only just beginning. The trap had been meticulously set, and now it was a matter of time before it snapped shut. As Brandon and Nicole disappeared down the hallway, no doubt whispering frantic theories, the unsuspecting hostess approached Dr. and Mrs. Peterson's table, a confused frown marring her polite smile. "Excuse me," she began, addressing Nicole's parents, "but there seems to be some confusion. We have a reservation for Nicole Peterson at 7:00 p.m. for table 12, but also a reservation for a Nicole Peterson celebration dinner at 7:15. Are you part of the same party?" Dr. Peterson looked utterly puzzled. "We're here for our daughter Nicole's promotion celebration. Someone from her office organized it." "And where is your daughter?" Mrs. Peterson looked around the restaurant, a hint of maternal anxiety creeping into her voice. "She should be here by now. This isn't like Nicole to be late." That's when Mrs. Peterson's eyes landed on the woman in the tight black dress, standing near the restroom hallway, urgently gesturing to a man in a navy suit. Even from across the restaurant, even after all these years, a mother recognizes her own child. "There she is," Mrs. Peterson said, pointing toward the hallway. "Nicole." But something was wrong. Nicole was with a man, and it wasn't Timothy. Mrs. Peterson squinted, trying to get a better look. Dr. Peterson followed his wife's gaze and frowned, a cold, hard suspicion blooming in his chest. Who is that man with her? Meanwhile, Robert and Diana Williams had been watching their son act strangely all evening. When Brandon excused himself to go to the restroom and didn't return after 10 minutes, Diana started to worry. "Maybe we should go check on Brandon," Diana said to her husband. "He's been gone an awfully long time." "He probably ran into someone from work," Robert replied, but his eyes, too, were fixed on the back of the restaurant, a growing unease settling in. That's when Nicole and Brandon emerged from the hallway, walking closely together, their heads bent in urgent, whispered conversation. They moved, almost instinctively, toward table 12, the intimate corner booth where they had been carrying on their affair for months. Nicole had her hand on Brandon's arm, a familiar, possessive gesture, and even from across the restaurant, their body language screamed intimacy, shared secrets, illicit passion. These weren't co-workers having a business discussion. These were lovers trying to figure out how to handle a crisis. Dr. Peterson stood up so fast he knocked over his water glass, the sound echoing in the increasingly quiet restaurant. "Patricia!" he said to his wife, his voice tight with disbelief. "Is that Nicole? With another man?" Mrs. Peterson was already on her feet, her face pale, a dawning horror in her eyes. "That's not Timothy. Who is that man with our daughter?" At the very same moment, Diana Williams gasped, a small, choked sound. "Robert, why is Brandon sitting with that woman? Where's Simone?" "I'm right here," Simone said, appearing at their table with impeccable timing, a serene, almost detached smile on her face. "I was just visiting with some friends I saw across the restaurant." And all three sets of parents turned to look at her, then back at the corner booth where Brandon and Nicole were now sitting across from each other, their hands intertwined on top of the table, desperately trying to project an air of normalcy. "Simone?" Diana said slowly, her voice laced with a tremor of confusion and fear. "Who is that woman with Brandon?" "I believe that's Nicole Peterson. She works with Brandon." "Peterson?" Robert's face was turning a dangerous shade of red. "As in Dr. and Mrs. Peterson over there?" Simone nodded toward the Petersons' table, where both parents were now staring at their daughter, their faces masks of unadulterated horror. "I think there might be some confusion," Simone said calmly, her voice carrying just enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe we should all sit down and figure this out together." But Dr. Peterson was already striding across the restaurant, a man possessed by a terrible truth, toward table 12, his wife close behind him, a hand clamped over her mouth. Robert and Diana Williams followed, a unified front of disbelief and burgeoning anger, with Simone bringing up the rear, a silent conductor of chaos. Nicole saw her parents approaching first. The color drained from her face, leaving her stark white. She quickly pulled her hands away from Brandon's, a desperate, futile attempt to erase the intimacy, but it was far too late. They had all seen. They had all witnessed the intimate way she had been touching a married man, her hand lingering, her gaze adoring. "Nicole!" Dr. Peterson's voice, usually so calm and authoritative, was sharp enough to cut glass. "What is going on here?" "Dad, Mom, what are you doing here?" Nicole stammered, her voice a fragile whisper. "We're here for your promotion celebration," Mrs. Peterson cried, her voice shaking with barely contained fury. "The one your co-worker organized to surprise you." Nicole looked genuinely confused, trapped in a web of lies not entirely her own. "What promotion? What co-worker?" That's when Brandon noticed his own parents, standing directly behind the Petersons, their faces rigid with shock and profound disappointment. "Mom! Dad! I thought you were having dinner with Simone." "We are having dinner with Simone," Diana said coldly, her eyes fixed on Brandon, disappointment radiating from her like heat from a furnace. "The question is, what are you doing here with this woman?" The entire restaurant had gone quiet. Other diners, sensing the unfolding drama, had discreetly stopped eating, their gazes fixed on the corner booth. Brandon stood up, his face flushed with shame and panic. "I can explain." "Explain what?" Robert's voice was louder than it should have been in a restaurant, reverberating with paternal fury. "Explain why you're having dinner with another woman while your wife thinks you're at a business meeting?" "It's not what it looks like," Nicole interjected quickly, her voice weak, utterly unconvincing. "Really?" Mrs. Peterson's voice was ice cold, dripping with contempt, "because it looks exactly like my married daughter is on a date with someone else's husband." Simone stepped forward, pulling out her phone. "Actually, it's exactly what it looks like." She presented the photos she'd taken the week before. Brandon and Nicole feeding each other appetizers, holding hands across the table, kissing passionately in the parking lot. Both sets of parents stared at the digital evidence in stunned, agonizing silence. 6 months, Simone continued, her voice calm, steady, unwavering. "They've been having an affair for 6 months. Every Thursday night, Brandon tells me he has client meetings. Every Thursday night, Nicole tells Timothy she's working late. But really, they come here to table 12 and pretend they're not destroying 2 marriages, 2 families, 2 lives." Dr. Peterson looked at his daughter as if he'd never truly seen her before, his expression a mixture of profound sorrow and utter disbelief. "Nicole, is this true?" Nicole's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't deny it. She couldn't. The evidence, the witnesses, the crushing weight of undeniable truth were all there. "How could you?" Mrs. Peterson whispered, her voice breaking. "How could you do this to Timothy, to your family, to yourself, to—" Brandon, sensing the complete collapse of his carefully constructed world, tried a last-ditch effort to regain control. "Look, everyone, calm down. This is between Simone and me." "No!" Diana's voice was sharp, cutting through the tense air like a blade. "This involves all of us now. We raised you better than this, Brandon. We raised you to honor your commitments, to respect your wife, to be a man of integrity. And we raised Nicole to respect her marriage vows," Dr. Peterson added, his voice heavy with disappointment, "to be honest and faithful." The entire restaurant was openly staring now, but Simone didn't care. This was better than she had ever imagined. Both sets of parents, together, discovering their children's betrayal, witnessing the destruction of 2 marriages in the most public and undeniable way possible. "I think," Simone said quietly, reaching into her purse, "this is the perfect time to give you these." She pulled out an envelope and handed it to Brandon. "Divorce papers. I've already filed them. You can sign them now or you can sign them later, but this marriage is over." Brandon stared at the envelope as if it might explode, his face a mask of horror. "Simone, please, let's talk about this privately. The time for private conversations ended when you decided to have a public affair," Simone replied, her voice unwavering. "There's nothing left to talk about." She turned to face both sets of devastated parents, offering a small, sad smile. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I thought you deserved to know the truth about your children." Then, Simone turned and walked out of Romano's Italian bistro, leaving Brandon and Nicole to explain themselves to their utterly devastated families. Behind her, she could hear voices rising in anger, hurt, and disbelief, but she didn't look back. She was done looking back. Simone sat in her car outside Romano's for 20 minutes, watching the unfolding drama through the restaurant windows. She could see animated gestures, people standing and sitting, and what looked like a lot of shouting. Finally, Dr. Peterson stormed out of the restaurant, his wife practically running to keep up with him. They didn't say a word to each other as they got into their Mercedes and drove away, tires squealing against the pavement. 5 minutes later, Robert and Diana Williams emerged, both looking years older than when they had walked in. Diana was openly crying, and Robert had his arm protectively around her shoulders. They walked slowly to their car, the crushing weight of their son's betrayal visible in every step, every slumped posture. Brandon and Nicole were the last to leave, and separately. Nicole came out first, her mascara streaked down her cheeks, looking around frantically before getting into her red BMW. She sat there for several minutes, probably trying to process what had just happened and how she was going to go home and face Timothy. Brandon appeared 10 minutes later, walking like a man in a daze, utterly broken. He scanned the parking lot until he spotted Simone's car, then walked over and tapped on the window. Simone rolled it down halfway. "Simone, please let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. I saw everything I needed to see." "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. You've been having an affair with Nicole for months. You love her. You talk about leaving me. You mock me in your text messages." Simone kept her voice level, devoid of emotion. "Did you think I didn't know?" Brandon's face went white, the blood draining from it entirely. "You read my texts?" "I read everything. Every message, every plan, every lie you told me while you were with her." He leaned against her car, utterly defeated. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to plan tonight perfectly. You planned this? You invited our parents on purpose?" Simone started her car engine. "Sign the divorce papers, Brandon. Make this easy on yourself. What about 8 years of marriage? Doesn't that mean anything to you?" "It meant everything to me. Apparently, it meant nothing to you." Simone drove away, leaving Brandon standing alone in the parking lot of the restaurant where his affair had just been exposed to the people who mattered most to him. When Simone got home, she poured herself a glass of wine and sat on her couch, finally allowing herself to process the enormity of what had just transpired. Her phone began to ring almost immediately. The first call was from Tanya, her sister. "Girl, what happened? Diana Williams just called Mom crying about Brandon having an affair. Please tell me you didn't know about this beforehand. I knew, Simone. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed to handle it my way, Tanya, by ambushing him in public." "That's not like you." The Simone who would have handled this privately and given him a chance to lie his way out of it doesn't exist anymore. This new Simone makes sure cheating husbands get exactly what they deserve. Tanya was quiet for a moment, absorbing the profound shift in her sister. "Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay," Simone replied, a genuine sense of lightness replacing the years of suppressed pain. "I'm free." The second call was from her mother-in-law, Diana. "Simone, honey, I am so sorry. I can't believe Brandon would do this to you, to our family." "I'm sorry you had to find out that way, Diana." "Don't you dare apologize. You have nothing to be sorry for. Robert and I are ashamed of our son. We raised him better than this." "I know you did." "What can we do? How can we help you through this?" "Just be there for me like you always have been. I'm going to need family more than ever, and you and Robert are my family, regardless of what Brandon has done." Diana started crying again. "We love you, Simone. You'll always be our daughter-in-law, no matter what happens with the divorce." This conversation, filled with raw emotion but unwavering support, was a testament to the fact that some bonds transcend marital vows, especially when integrity is tested. The third call was from Brandon's younger brother, Jake. "Simone, Dad just told me what happened. I can't believe Brandon would do something so stupid. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Jake." "No, you're not. Nobody's fine after something like this. Do you need anything? A place to stay? Someone to beat up Brandon?" That made Simone smile for the first time all day, a genuine, unburdened smile. "I don't need Brandon beaten up, but thank you for offering. I might need help moving my stuff out of the house this weekend. Consider it done. I'll bring a truck and some guys from work." "Thank you. That means a lot." The fourth call was from Timothy Peterson, Nicole's husband. Simone almost didn't answer, but curiosity and a sense of shared experience got the better of her. "Mrs. Williams, this is Timothy Peterson, Nicole's husband. I think we need to talk." "I'm sorry, Timothy. I'm sure this is difficult for you. Nicole came home tonight and told me everything, about the affair, about what happened at the restaurant. I wanted to thank you." That surprised Simone. Thank me for what? For exposing the truth. I've suspected something was wrong for months, but I couldn't prove it. Nicole kept telling me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. At least now I know I wasn't crazy. I'm sorry it had to happen this way. No, you did the right thing. If you hadn't forced the truth into the open, Nicole would have kept lying to both of us indefinitely. They talked for a few more minutes about lawyers and divorce proceedings. Timothy was hurt, profoundly so, but he seemed to be handling it with a quiet dignity, almost relieved to finally know the truth. The weight of his own suspicions, the insidious doubt had been lifted. The last call of the evening was the one Simone had been dreading. Brandon. Simone, I'm outside. Please let me come in so we can talk. There's nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about. 8 years of marriage doesn't just end because of one mistake. One mistake, Brandon? You've been having an affair for 6 months. You're in love with another woman. You mock me to her. You lied to me every single day. That's not one mistake. That's a choice you made over and over again. I was going to end it with Nicole. When? Before or after you left me for her? Silence. That's what I thought. Sign the divorce papers, Brandon. I'll have Jake come get my stuff this weekend. After that, we don't need to see each other again. What about counseling? What about trying to work it out? You should have thought about counseling before you decided to have an affair. It's too late now. Simone hung up and turned off her phone. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, but also strangely peaceful. For months, she had been living with the corrosive knowledge of Brandon's betrayal, carrying that secret weight alone. Now, the truth was out in the open, and everyone could see Brandon and Nicole for who they really were. As she got ready for bed in the house she would soon be leaving forever, Simone thought about the expression on Nicole's face when her parents confronted her. The shame, the regret, the sudden terrible realization that she had destroyed her marriage and her family's respect for momentary pleasure. Brandon would wake up tomorrow with no wife, disappointed parents, and a reputation in ruins. Nicole would face the same consequences, plus a divorce from a man who had loved her faithfully for 6 years. They had gotten exactly what they deserved, and for the first time in months, Simone slept peacefully through the entire night. No restless turning, no waking in the dark to the glow of a phone, just quiet, uninterrupted sleep. The next morning, Simone woke to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Word, it turns out, travels at the speed of light in small communities. By Friday morning, everyone seemed to know about the Romanos incident. Most of the messages were supportive. Friends expressing shock at Brandon's behavior, offering help with the divorce, inviting her to lunch to talk. But there were a few messages that made her blood boil. Brandon's cousin Michelle had texted, "Maybe if you'd been a better wife, Brandon wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." His college friend Derek wrote, "Everyone makes mistakes. You should consider forgiveness." And Brandon's ex-girlfriend from high school, Lisa, had the audacity to message, "Brandon's a good man. This doesn't sound like him at all." Simone deleted those messages without responding. She owed no one explanations or justifications for ending her marriage to a cheater. Her worth was not defined by his infidelity, nor her response dictated by external expectations. The message she did respond to was from her divorce attorney, Janet Morrison. Simone had hired Janet 2 weeks ago, right after she had started planning her revenge. "Simone, I heard about what happened last night. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Is everything ready on the legal side?" "Absolutely. The divorce papers are filed, and based on the evidence of adultery you provided, this should be straightforward. Has Brandon indicated whether he'll contest the divorce?" "He says he wants to work things out, but I think reality is starting to set in." "Good. I'll be in touch if I need anything else from you." Simone spent Friday morning calling her job to request a leave of absence. Her boss, Carol, was understanding and supportive. "Take all the time you need, Simone. Your job will be here when you're ready to come back." Next, she called Jake to confirm he was still available to help her move over the weekend. "Of course, I've got 3 guys in a truck. What time do you want us there?" "Early. I want to be done before Brandon gets home from work." "Where are you going to stay?" "I found a furnished apartment near downtown, month-to-month lease until I figure out something permanent." "Good for you. You're handling this better than I would." That afternoon, Tanya came over with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. "Okay," she said, settling onto Simone's couch. "Tell me everything from the beginning." Simone recounted the entire story, from discovering the texts to orchestrating the confrontation at Romano's. Tanya listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to anger to something that looked suspiciously like pride. "Damn, Simone, that was cold-blooded." "It was necessary." "I'm not criticizing you. Brandon deserved everything he got. I'm just impressed by how methodical you were about it. I had 2 weeks to plan. I wanted to make sure it was perfect. And Nicole's parents, they had no idea? None. According to Timothy, they've been calling Nicole all day, trying to understand how their daughter became the kind of woman who destroys marriages." Tanya shook her head. "What about Brandon's parents?" "Diana called this morning. She's still upset, but she made it clear they support me, not Brandon. They're embarrassed and disappointed in him, as they should be." They spent the evening going through the house, deciding what Simone wanted to take and what she was leaving behind. Most of the furniture could stay. She didn't want reminders of her dissolved marriage in her new place. But there were personal items, books, photos from before Brandon and she met, things that were hers alone. Around 10 p.m., Brandon's car pulled into the driveway. "I should go," Tanya said, gathering up the empty takeout containers. "You don't have to leave because of him. I know, but this is your house for one more night. Handle your business." After Tanya left, Brandon came inside, looking utterly broken, as if he hadn't slept at all. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled, and he had dark circles under his eyes. "We need to talk," he said, his voice hoarse. "We really don't." "Simone, please, I know you're angry, but—" "Angry?" Simone laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Brandon, I'm past angry. I'm done." "What can I do to fix this?" "There's nothing to fix. You made your choice when you decided to have an affair. I'm making mine by choosing to leave." Brandon sat down heavily on the couch, running a hand through his hair. "I never meant for this to happen." "You never meant to get caught." "No, I never meant to hurt you. The thing with Nicole, it just happened." "For 6 months, Brandon? It just kept happening every Thursday night for 6 months?" Brandon was quiet for a long moment, defeated. Finally, he looked up at Simone, his eyes heavy with sorrow, and spoke the words she already knew, the words that had burned themselves into her memory weeks ago. "I love her." The words hit Simone like a slap, even though she'd read them in his texts. Hearing him say it out loud was different, more painful, more definitive. "I know," she said simply. "But I love you, too." "No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the security of our marriage, the convenience of having someone take care of you while you pursue your real relationship with Nicole. But you don't love me, Brandon. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to do this." "That's not true. Prove it. Tell me right now that you'll never see Nicole again. Tell me you'll quit your job and find work somewhere else so you never have to be around her. Tell me you'll block her number and delete her from your life completely." Brandon opened his mouth, then closed it, looking down at his hands, unable to meet her gaze. "That's what I thought," Simone said. "You can't even pretend to choose me over her. It's complicated." "No, it's not. It's actually very simple. You want to be with Nicole more than you want to be married to me. So go be with Nicole. But you don't get to keep me as a backup plan." Simone went upstairs to pack the last of her personal items, leaving Brandon sitting alone on the couch, a solitary figure dwarfed by the ruins of their shared life. When she came back down with her suitcase, he was gone. His car was still in the driveway, but he was nowhere in the house. She found him on the back porch, staring out at the garden they had planted together 3 years ago, a symbolic testament to their failed future. "I'm staying at the Hampton Inn tonight," she said. "Jake will be here tomorrow afternoon to get my stuff." Brandon nodded, not looking at her. "I changed the locks on the house," Simone continued. "Your key won't work anymore. Consider this fair warning." "This is my house, too," he finally retorted, a flicker of his old arrogance returning. "Actually, it's not. It's my house. I inherited it from my grandmother, remember? You're the one who moved in here after we got married." Brandon's shoulders slumped, defeated. "I forgot." You forgot a lot of things, Brandon, like your wedding vows. Simone walked back through the house one last time, ensuring she had everything she needed. As she reached for her car keys, Brandon appeared in the doorway, his face etched with regret. "Simone, wait." She turned around. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry." "Sorry you had an affair or sorry you got caught?" He thought about it for a moment, which told Simone everything she needed to know. "Goodbye, Brandon." And as she drove away from the house where she had lived for 8 years, Simone felt something unexpected. Relief. The hard part was over. The confrontation, the revelation, the end of her marriage. All of that was behind her now. What lay ahead was the unknown. But for the first time in months, the unknown felt like possibility instead of dread. It felt like freedom. 6 months after the Romanos incident, as it had become known in their social circle, Simone was sitting in her new apartment, sipping coffee and reading the Sunday paper when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Timothy Peterson's name. "Hi, Timothy. How are you doing?" "Better than expected, actually. I wanted to call and thank you again." "For what?" "For setting me free. I know that wasn't your intention when you exposed Nicole's affair, but that's what you did. You freed both of us from marriages that weren't working." Timothy and Simone had become unlikely friends over the past months. They had gone through their divorces at the same time, sometimes sharing lawyer recommendations and moral support. It was strange, having this profound, traumatic experience in common with Nicole's ex-husband. But trauma, Simone had learned, bonded people in unexpected ways. "How did the final hearing go?" Simone asked. "It's officially over. Nicole didn't contest anything. She just wanted it finished quickly. And how is she doing?" "I honestly don't know. We haven't spoken since the papers were signed, but I heard through mutual friends that she's been struggling, lost her job at Henderson Marketing after the affair came out. Apparently, the company has a strict policy about workplace relationships. She's working at some small firm downtown now." Simone felt a brief flicker of sympathy for Nicole, then remembered the deep, agonizing pain she'd caused and pushed the feeling aside. Actions had consequences. "What about Brandon?" Timothy asked. "Also struggling. He's still at his company, but his reputation is seriously damaged. Hard to be trusted with client relationships when everyone knows you can't be trusted in your personal relationships. He moved in with his brother Jake after I kicked him out of the house." "Are they still together, Nicole and Brandon?" "As far as I know, though apparently it's not the fairy tale romance they thought it would be once they were both divorced." That was an understatement. According to mutual friends, Brandon and Nicole's relationship had soured quickly once it was no longer forbidden. The excitement of sneaking around was gone, replaced by the grim reality of two people who had destroyed their lives for what turned out to be an unsustainable infatuation, a brief thrill that evaporated under the harsh light of public scrutiny and real-world consequences. "Anyway," Timothy continued, his voice lighter, "I called because I wanted to update you on my news. I'm engaged." "Timothy, that's wonderful. Tell me about her." "Her name is Rebecca. She's a nurse at the hospital where I work. We met in the cafeteria 4 months ago when I was going through the worst of the divorce depression. She helped me remember that not all women are liars and cheaters." Simone smiled, genuinely happy for him. Timothy was a good man who deserved someone who would appreciate his loyalty and kindness. "When's the wedding?" "Next spring. Small ceremony, just close family and friends. I've learned that big romantic gestures and fancy venues don't guarantee a marriage will work." After they hung up, Simone reflected on how much her life had changed in 6 short months. She had bought Brandon out of his half of her grandmother's house, gotten a promotion at work, and started taking art classes on weekends. She was dating occasionally, nothing serious yet, but she was open to possibilities. The divorce had been finalized 3 months ago. Brandon had signed all the papers without contest, probably because he knew public opinion was entirely on her side. His infidelity was documented, undeniable, and witnessed, making any attempt to fight the divorce utterly pointless. Simone had kept her maiden name throughout their marriage, so there were no legal complications about changing it back. She was simply Simone Johnson again, the same person she'd been before she met Brandon Williams, but now stronger, wiser, and unequivocally free. That Tuesday evening, Simone was at her favorite coffee shop near the university, grading papers for the art appreciation class she'd started teaching part-time, when someone approached her table. "Excuse me, are you using this chair?" She looked up to see a tall, dark-skinned man with kind eyes and an easy smile. He was wearing a brown sweater that brought out the gold flecks in his rich brown eyes. "No, please take it," she said, moving her papers aside. "Thank you. I'm Gabriel, by the way." "Gabriel Chin." "Simone, nice to meet you." Gabriel settled at the next table with a laptop and what looked like architectural drawings. Over the next hour, they fell into easy conversation about art, work, and the coffee shop's excellent pastries. "I'm an architect," Gabriel explained when Simone asked about his drawings. "Working on a proposal for a new community center downtown." "That sounds interesting. What got you into architecture?" "I've always been fascinated by how spaces affect people's emotions and behavior. A well-designed building can make people feel welcome, inspired, peaceful. Bad design can make them feel anxious or excluded." Simone found herself genuinely interested, not just being polite. It had been a long time since a man had engaged her mind as well as her attention. "What about you? Are you a teacher?" "Part-time. I work in marketing during the day, but I teach art appreciation classes in the evenings. It's my passion project." "Art appreciation? That's fascinating. I've always wished I understood art better." "It's not about understanding," Simone said, warming to the subject. "It's about feeling. Art is meant to evoke emotion, to make you think or react. If it does that, then it's working, whether you understand it or not." Gabriel smiled. "See, that's exactly what I mean. You just taught me something important in 30 seconds. They talked until the coffee shop closed at 10 p.m., covering everything from their favorite artists to their worst dating disasters. Gabriel had been divorced for 2 years after his ex-wife decided she preferred her yoga instructor to her husband. "I'm sorry," Simone said when he mentioned his divorce. "That must have been painful." "It was, but honestly, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. We weren't right for each other, but neither of us was brave enough to admit it. Sometimes it takes a crisis to force you to make necessary changes." Simone knew exactly what he meant. As they gathered their things to leave, Gabriel hesitated. "This might be presumptuous, but would you like to have dinner sometime? Somewhere nicer than a coffee shop?" Simone studied his face, looking for any signs of insincerity or ulterior motives, but all she saw was genuine interest and the kind of nervous hope that came from putting yourself out there after being hurt. "I'd like that," she said. "Really?" "Really." Gabriel's smile was brilliant. "How about Friday night? I know a great little Italian place downtown." "Not Romano's, I hope," Simone joked, a wry smile on her lips. Gabriel laughed. "Definitely not Romano's. I was thinking more like Antonio's on 5th Street. Much better food, much less drama." As Simone drove home that night, she realized she was genuinely excited about a date for the first time in years. Not nervous, not anxious about making a good impression, just excited to spend time with someone who seemed genuinely interested in getting to know her. Friday couldn't come fast enough. 1 year later, Simone stood in front of her bathroom mirror, putting the finishing touches on her makeup for Gabriel's company holiday party. The woman staring back at her looked happier and more confident than she had in years. Her skin glowed, her eyes sparkled with genuine joy, and she carried herself with the assurance of someone who knew her own worth, who had navigated treacherous waters and emerged stronger. The past year had been transformative in ways Simone never could have imagined. Gabriel and she had taken their relationship slowly, building a solid foundation of friendship and trust before allowing romance to bloom. He was everything Brandon wasn't. Honest, attentive, emotionally available, and completely devoted to building a life with her rather than escaping from it. "You look stunning," Gabriel said, appearing in the doorway of her bedroom. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit that complemented his warm brown skin perfectly, and his smile when he looked at her made her heart skip. "Thank you. You don't look too bad yourself." Gabriel crossed the room and wrapped his arms around her from behind, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "I have something for you," he whispered. "Gabriel, we agreed no gifts until Christmas." "This isn't a Christmas gift. This is an 'I can't wait another day' gift." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and Simone's heart stopped. "Simone Johnson," he said, turning her to face him and dropping to one knee. "You are the most beautiful, intelligent, strong woman I've ever known. You've taught me what real love looks like. Not the desperate, secretive kind that thrives on drama and deception, but the steady, honest, supportive kind that makes both people better." Tears spilled down her cheeks as he opened the box to reveal a classic solitaire diamond ring that caught the light and threw sparkles across the wall. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." Gabriel slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. He stood and kissed her with so much love and passion that she forgot about the party, forgot about everything except this man who had helped her remember what it felt like to be truly cherished. "I love you," she said against his lips. "I love you too," he replied, "more than I ever thought possible." They might have stayed there kissing forever, but Gabriel's phone buzzed with a text from his business partner, wondering where they were. "We should go," Gabriel said reluctantly. "Everyone's waiting to meet you." As they drove to the party, Simone thought about how different her life was now compared to a year ago. The Romanos incident had been the brutal end of one chapter, but it had irrevocably led to the glorious beginning of something infinitely better. Brandon and Nicole, according to the local gossip network, had lasted another 3 months after their divorces were final before breaking up spectacularly. Their relationship simply couldn't survive the guilt, the shame, and the pervasive judgment from their families and community. Brandon was now dating someone new, a woman from his gym who apparently didn't care about his history of infidelity. Nicole had moved to another state to start fresh, to a place where no one knew her story. Simone felt no satisfaction in their misery, but she felt no pity either. They had made their choices, and they had earned their consequences. Timothy had married Rebecca in a beautiful spring ceremony that Simone had attended as his friend. They were blissfully happy, and seeing Timothy with someone who appreciated him, who chose him wholeheartedly, had reinforced Simone's belief that everyone deserved that kind of unwavering love. "Penny for your thoughts," Gabriel said as they pulled into the restaurant parking lot. "Just thinking about how much my life has changed. Good changes, the best changes. A year ago, I was married to a man who didn't value me, working a job that didn't fulfill me, and living a life that felt small and constrained. Now I have a career I'm passionate about, a man who loves me completely, and a future full of possibilities." Gabriel took her hand, his thumb stroking over her new engagement ring. "I can't wait to start our life together officially. No secrets, no lies, no drama, just us building something real and lasting." The party was everything Simone had hoped it would be. Gabriel's colleagues welcomed her warmly, and she could see how respected and liked he was in his professional community. When he introduced her as his fiancée, his pride was obvious and genuine. "So, you're the woman who finally tamed Gabriel Chin," his business partner Marcus teased. "He's been a different person since he met you, happier, more focused, definitely more motivated to leave the office at reasonable hours." "I didn't tame him," Simone laughed. "I just gave him a reason to want to go home." Later in the evening, Gabriel and Simone were swaying together on the dance floor when Simone saw a familiar figure across the restaurant. Brandon was there with his new girlfriend, a blonde woman who looked young enough to be carded. He spotted Simone at the same time, and their eyes met across the crowded room. For a moment, Simone felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no regret. Just nothing. He was a stranger who used to be married to her, a character from a previous life that no longer held any relevance to who she was now. Brandon raised his wine glass slightly in what might have been a toast or an acknowledgement. Simone nodded politely back, then turned her attention to Gabriel, who was whispering something sweet in her ear. "Everything okay?" Gabriel asked, noticing her momentary distraction. "Perfect," Simone said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. "Everything is absolutely perfect." As the evening wound down, Gabriel and Simone walked hand in hand to their car under a clear, star-filled sky. "So," Gabriel said, "when do you want to get married?" "Tomorrow," Simone joked, then considered it seriously. "Actually, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. I don't need a big wedding or a long engagement. I just need you." "Spring," Gabriel suggested. "We could have the ceremony in your grandmother's garden. Small, intimate, just the people who matter most to us." "That sounds perfect." And as Gabriel drove them home to the house they now shared, Simone's grandmother's house, which had witnessed the end of her marriage to Brandon and was now the foundation for her future with Gabriel, Simone reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought her to this moment. A year ago, she had been betrayed, humiliated, and broken. She had discovered her husband's affair in the most painful way possible and had responded with calculated revenge that had, undeniably, destroyed multiple relationships and reputations. Some people might say she had been too harsh, too unforgiving, but Simone regretted nothing. Brandon and Nicole had made their choices, and she had simply ensured those choices had appropriate, undeniable consequences. More importantly, those consequences had freed her to discover what real, authentic love looked like. Gabriel didn't just say he loved her. He showed it every single day through his actions, his unwavering attention, his consistent commitment to their relationship. He didn't take her for granted or treat their love as something he could risk for momentary excitement. "What are you thinking about now?" Gabriel asked as they pulled into their driveway. "Just gratitude, I guess, for everything that happened, even the painful parts. If Brandon hadn't had his affair, I never would have left him. And if I hadn't left him, I never would have met you." Gabriel turned off the engine and took Simone's hands in his. "I hate that you had to go through that pain, but I'm grateful for whatever forces in the universe brought us together. Even if those forces included public humiliation at Romano's Italian bistro." Gabriel laughed, a deep, resonant sound. "Especially because of that. Your revenge story is legendary, by the way. Half the city knows better than to cheat on their spouses because they're afraid their partners might pull a Simone Johnson on them. Is that what they're calling it? Among other things, you've become something of a folk hero for betrayed wives everywhere." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, looking at their house. Gabriel had officially moved in 3 months ago, with its warm lights glowing in the windows. "Are you ready to go inside and start planning our wedding?" Gabriel asked. "I'm ready to start planning our life," Simone replied. As they walked up the front steps together, Gabriel carrying her over the threshold as if they were already married, Simone thought about the title of this new chapter of her life. If the Romanos incident had been the revenge, and the months that followed had been the recovery, then this was the profound renewal. She was no longer just the woman who had discovered her husband's betrayal through late-night text messages. She wasn't even solely the woman who had orchestrated public humiliation as payback for private pain. She was Simone Johnson, successful marketing executive and passionate part-time art teacher, engaged to a wonderful man who loved her completely, honestly, and without reservation. She was a woman who had learned her own immense worth, demanded to be treated accordingly, and resolutely refused to settle for anything less than she truly deserved. And as Gabriel carried her across the threshold of the house where her old life had ended and her new, vibrant life had beautifully begun, she knew with absolute certainty that the best was yet to come. Their love story wasn't built on drama or deception or the fleeting thrill of the forbidden. It was built on friendship, respect, shared values, and the simple, daily, deliberate choice to put each other first. It wasn't exciting in the fleeting, destructive way that affairs were exciting. It was better than that. It was real. It was true. 6 months later, on a perfect May morning in her grandmother's garden, surrounded by the people who loved them most, Gabriel and Simone promised to love, honor, and cherish each other for the rest of their lives. And unlike the promises she'd made 8 years earlier to a man who would break them without remorse, Simone knew deep in her heart that these vows, forged in truth and trust, would last forever. Because real love doesn't need the drama of betrayal to stay interesting. Real love is interesting enough, all on its own.